Good afternoon. Welcome to the June 18th, 2024 Public Services Committee meeting. A little housekeeping. If you have cell phones, please either mute them or turn them off. When you approach to speak, please identify yourself and turn on the mic so the red button shows. Clerk, first item.
Number 11, ordinance third reading, amending sections 1.4.3 define terms and 2.2.6 temporary use approved for the Unified Development Code, adding a minimum of 14 days.
Okay, staff report, please.
Chair, members of the committee, Connor White, Planning and Development Department. Again, this is just a text amendment to do some cleanup and add a minimum of 14 days for temporary uses. Nothing has changed since the last time this was brought forward, was approved on second reading. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions from committee for Connor? Questions? Okay, hearing none. Any public comment? Public comment. Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Move to approve on third and final reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments from committee? Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Number 12, ordinance third reading, amending section 1.4.4.c service uses, table 5-1 zoning district uses, section 5.7.4 child care uses, and table 6-2 require parking of the Unified Development Code, changing child care requirements.
Okay, staff report.
Chair, members of
Chairman, I'm gonna declare a possible conflict of interest on this.
Thank you, Mr. Liborn.
Chair, members of the committee, Connor White, Planning and Development Department. The text amendment before you, it looks at changing our childcare regulations, modifying them to come more in line with DFS regulations. It does change the definition. We are looking at also changing where childcare centers are allowed throughout the city, allowing them in residential zone districts as conditional uses, as well as changing parking requirements. Again, with the parking requirements, they are kind of in between what the UDC currently requires. They're less than what the UDC requires right now, but they're still a little bit over what the ITE manual requires. Nothing has changed with the proposed text amendment. Staff is still recommending approval. Was approved on second reading, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Dr. Rennie.
so looking at least in our packet on page 2 of 4, it has the table, Article 5 zoning regulations. And we used to have 4 definitions there. So we combine childcare center minor and childcare center major together, I assume.
Chair, through you, that is correct. Childcare center minor and major would be combined into just childcare center. The reason for doing that is DFS actually doesn't have a minor or a major. They just call them childcare centers. So to make it just easier for people, we look to just combine those into one.
And is there a maximum number of children allowed in a childcare center? Is there a limit anywhere?
Chair, through you, there is not a limit. Currently within the UDC, a childcare minor is basically up to 30 kids. A childcare major would be over 30 kids, but there is no max. DFS usually kind of regulates what that max is based on the square footage of the building, different areas within the building for the children to be, so they actually have their own parameters.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, through you, we are now allowing childcare centers in residential neighborhoods. I'm trying to envision, some of the childcare centers we have around town. With a conditional use permit, would somebody be able to buy 1 or 2 homes, maybe tear them down and build a childcare center that really doesn't fit the neighborhood?
Chair, through you, someone could do that, but again, because it is going through that conditional use process, if we feel there are criteria for the conditional use that says basically, does this fit with the character of the neighborhood? So we could review that, and if it doesn't fit, then we may not end up approving it. Again, when it comes to childcare centers within residential zones, DFS has regulations based on the square footage, how many kids you can then have. So if somebody just took a home and want to make it an actual center, they still may only be able to have up to I think 16, 20 kids, depending on the square footage that that house has. So that will keep those smaller still.
Mhm.
But back to your question about could someone demo two houses, combine the lots, build a new center? That's possible. But they would have to go through that conditional use process and really show how is this matching the character of the neighborhood? What are they implementing that may make it fit the neighborhood better? But they would have to go through that full process. It's just not a straight out approval.
And my last question, Mr. Chairman, is if something like that were proposed, because this is just administrative approval, correct?
With a conditional use, no.
No.
Conditional use goes to the Board of Adjustment for approval, so it goes through a public process, all the neighbors get notified. Has to do a site plan as well, which would be administrative, but
But I guess my question is, it kind of relates back to the apartments up in the Crest Ridge, Buffalo Ridge area that where the neighbors had signed a petition and then it was required to have a 75% approval of the governing body or 80%, whatever it was. Since this goes to Board of Adjustments, is something like this subject to a similar process? If you had a percentage of the neighbors that had an issue with it, it would require a super majority of the Board of Adjustments?
Chair, through you, no, it would not.
All right. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Any further questions from committee? Okay, any public comment? Public comment? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve on third and final reading.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comments from committee? Questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Number 13, ordinance third reading. Creating section 10.24.190, critical traffic control areas, creation and administration, enhanced penalties of the municipal code of the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming, authorizing the designation of critical traffic control areas and authorizing enhanced penalties as specified.
Okay, we have a staff report.
Mr. Chairman,
The mayor's on too.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. We're on third reading here, sir. There's no changes from our last meeting, and I am here to answer any questions if you have any.
Sir, if you could identify yourself.
This is Mayor Patrick Collins, sir.
Okay. Third reading, no changes. Any questions from the committee? Questions from committee? Any public comment? Public comment. Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
So a motion is second. Any questions or committee, comments from committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Laybourne.
this is gonna do an awful lot for our neighborhoods. An awful lot in my ward on those Central and Warren in particular. And to do that, I look forward to understanding a little better. And maybe I can get some education before Monday night as to how this applies on a state highway, which is what Central and Warren is, and where we had a comment on the earlier reading here from an individual that's discussed this with me for many years. And of course, you've got it elsewhere as well. So it really is something that I know a lot of work went into it. It is different than what we've done before, but I'm very pleased that we've got this far and that we're going to be able to implement it. And I think it's going to give those people on those streets who have very serious concerns an ability to enter into the process, understand it, and see what the city can do to help them have a more livable area that they abut to major roadways. So I appreciate all the effort that went into this and look forward to participating in its application. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from committee? Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Number 14, ordinance second reading, amending the official zoning map of the city of Cheyenne, changing the zoning classification from MUB mixed-use business to CB community business for land located northeast of the intersection of Cheyenne Street and Ridge Road.
Staff report.
Chair, members of the committee, Connor White, Planning and Development Department. The zone change before you is for a property, piece of, it's a parcel that is north of Cheyenne Street. It's east of and adjacent to Ridge Road. This was part of our first county pocket annexation. They are requesting a zone change from MUB mixed use business to CB community business. It's to facilitate development on the lot. They are looking at doing more of a auto-oriented development for the lot. So CB generally allows that to develop a little bit better with its setbacks. There is CB zoning to the south of this property as well as to the east. It is along a major street. So CB zone would be appropriate. Planning Commission did recommend approval of this zone change at their meeting, and staff would recommend approval of this as well. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions of staff?
Yeah, when do we max out on office?
Right after coffee
So-
shops.
Mr. Chair, through you, it's not an auto center. We've been told that the south half is looking at becoming a car lot or a car wash.
Same question. Mr.
And
Chairman.
then, yes, and then the north half of the lot, they're still working on what the development plan will be for that, but that is currently the development plan for the parcel,
It'll be a car wash / coffee shop.
plus a bank.
And a
plus-
bank.
With a bank, yeah.
And a bank and a box.
Any other questions or comments?
So, yes, Mr.
Attorney.
Chairman. So the difference then, you said CB is a little more amenable to what they want to do. Is it greater or lesser setbacks, greater or lesser parking requirement?
Mr. Chair, through you.
How do they, I didn't see Mr. Palma sitting back there, so you may be stuck with answering my question.
And that's all right, Mr. Chair, through you. So when it comes between the MUB and the CB zone, MUB would basically pull that building to need to be within 20 feet of any property line adjacent to a street. So basically, you're gonna have to pull that building almost to the corner of Ridge and Cheyenne Street, which could make a car wash somewhat challenging, depending on what they're looking at doing exactly. The CB zone will allow for a greater setback. Basically, your setback is 25 feet from any property line, so you could go over 25 feet, but your minimum is 25. Whereas the MUB, you are set at your maximum setback is 20 feet. Parking will still be the same between zone districts. The other difference would be the design requirements for MUB is different than CB. The MUB, we've discussed quite a bit where it gets into all the different windows that they need to have adjacent to streets and things like that. But otherwise, the biggest difference is probably the design requirements and then the setbacks, but parking will still be the same.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions from committee? Okay, hearing none, public comment? Public comment. Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve on second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from committee? Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yeah,
Number 17, resolution approving the Jolly Rogers Urban Renewal Plan and the Jolly Rogers Urban Renewal Project pursuant to Wyoming State Statute 15-9-110.
yeah, it was staff report.
Chair, members of committee, Charles Bloom, Planning and Development Director. What you have before you today is the Jolly Rogers Urban Renewal Plan and Project. This is an urban renewal plan and project that is located on the northwest corner of US 30 and Whitney Road. This is the former Jolly Rogers RV sales facility, and prior to that, it was also an RV park with an extended stay, long-term stay. I just want to note, at discussion of the public hearing, there's discussion about the property located immediately to the north of this. This is an existing RV park that is within the county, the unincorporated county. This map here shows the city limits. The city limits are everywhere in orange. Everywhere else that is not in orange is unincorporated county. Where are we at in this process? This all follows the determination of blight for this area that was determined with resolution number 6334, which was approved by the governing body on July 10th of 2023. The Urban Renewal Board, they approved this plan and project on May 8th of 2024. The Planning Commission, pursuant to state statute, reviewed and recommended approval of this plan and project at their May 20th, 2024 meeting. Staff sent out a voluntary notice to taxing agencies on June 3rd of 2024, noting to them the opportunity to comment at the public hearing, this particular meeting, and at third and final reading, or second and final reading of the governing body. We then had a public hearing on June 10th of 2024, where there was some discussion on this plan and project between staff, several of the council members, and also the applicant's representative. And the next steps for this application are application for tax increment financing and a subsequent development agreement that will spell out the terms of that tax increment financing application. Through this process, we also have a peer review of their tax increment financing request to make sure that they are demonstrating a sufficient gap to warrant the use of tax increment financing for this project. What is that gap? The gap basically is an amount of assistance that the developer has demonstrated that they would need to be able to make the project actually return a profit. That return would be limited to an acceptable market percentage, generally between 8 and 10%. Right now, that TIF application and development agreement that has been submitted, as well as there's been another one submitted by the same developer for another site in the community. That is expected to move forward to our Urban Renewal Authority at their July meeting, and then continue its path forward as it goes through the necessary approvals through the governing body. So what are they looking at to make eligible activities for this urban renewal plan and project? This is what they have provided. This is what's outlined in their plan and project. Just to summarize, they are looking for funding to aid in site acquisition costs. Those site acquisition costs need to be costs that are able to be allowed under Wyoming law and the Constitution. Essentially, these would have to be public facing costs. So in the event that the city is requiring additional land for drainage or other items such as right of way, we could look to subsidize some of those dollars for tax increment financing. Also to relocate a water line that intrudes into the southeastern boundary of the site and relocate it to make the site more developable. For stormwater improvements on the site, remediation of any environmental contamination, especially with the existing buildings that are on site as they're demolished, and to also fund improvements of street, curb, gutter, and sidewalks that would be there for the development. And the final item would be to facilitate economic development of the site and site beautification, as long as it fell within the confines of the Wyoming law and the Wyoming Constitution. I just want to demonstrate one of the items here. It's in this presentation that shows one of the items that is an issue with the site. I've been looking at this area in red. They're showing the water line. As you can see on the map, this water line actually, we're not really certain why, but it juts in the property a significant amount, kind of truncating into two pieces. So part of the tax increment financing, we look to relocate this to a better location that would not impede future development. As you can see here, the proposal shows two buildings on the northwest corner of the site. This would have approximately 194 units in these two buildings. It did go to the Board of Adjustment for conditional use approval. During that review process, there was some discussion by a couple of residents to the north, and the developer had indicated that they would like to work with the neighbors to provide a buffer and some other relief that might be necessary to lessen the burden on any property owners. I just want to note that this plan is conceptual and is subject to change. So it's not exactly what you see is what you're going to get here. I mean, it will generally be in that area, but it could shift off property lines and such. I'm open for the proposed TIF is within the recently approved Jolly Rogers blight designation. And this planning project does propose a lifespan of 25 years to facilitate this project. I'm open for any questions you may have on this item, and the applicant's representative is available online.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Seagrave?
thank you. Through you, Charles, the amount that's requested, will that be the total amount available for the entire parcel or just the parcel that is currently being considered for development? In other words, if another project comes 2 years from now for the balance of the property, will there be any TIF or funds available for them, for that project?
Chair through to Councilor Seagrave, that's a great question. Regarding the TIF application they have proposed for the residential component of this lot, it is estimated that their residential component will be able to satisfy their fiscal gap that they're demonstrating. In the event that a second development would occur on the eastern half, it would also be envisioned that the increased square footage and the addition of structures at that location would be able to facilitate any financial gap for that portion of development. So the way these are intended is each development is intended to stand on its own within that TIF district.
Thank you.
Any further questions from committee? Further questions? Any public comment? Go ahead.
Yes, Chair, through you. Mark Christensen with AVIPC, representative for the applicant. So this is a new plan and project area for the area. It is new for the community as this is the first plan and project that had been submitted by the development community rather than city initiating the plan and project. Essentially what it does is start the clock for the TIF collection. Any of the public improvements or improvements in general that we are requesting will come before you again in a development agreement, as Charles had noted. So process-wise, just wanted to note that if this should move forward with the plan and project, we will move that TIF application forward to the Urban Renewal Authority Board, which will then be advanced to City Council through a development agreement that will work on the city attorney with the city attorney's office on. And then from that point, we would look into refining the site plan and any plating or other applications that would need to come forward. So this is, in a sense, the second step in a series of steps that would go into this development. And I am available for any questions as well.
Okay. Any questions from committee? Questions from committee? Okay, any further public comment?
Good afternoon, Chairman. Tom Cobb, City Engineer. A question on this parcel. We are in the process of negotiating right-of-way acquisition on the east side of this parcel. How does the TIF affect that with the Whitney Del Range project?
Mr. Bloom?
Chair, through the members of the committee and city engineer Tom Cobb, there was a little bit of muffling in the sound there, but I believe the question was, how does the acquisition of right of way relate to this tax increment financing project? It would make what it would do is under this first item here, this first bullet point on this screen, is that would make, is that still there? I lost screen sharing. I'll be there back in 1 second. It would make some of those costs eligible for land acquisition, since a portion of it would be being acquired for additional right of way for the city, and that would be a pass through through the developer.
And just to follow up through you, Chair, just on the property to the north, were they asked to participate in this? Because as indicated, I was part of a different project. There's a non-discharging lagoon that's just north of this. Were they asked to be involved to help them maybe acquire some financing to be able to help their situation as well?
Chair, through you to city engineer Tom Cobb. We had initial discussions with the applicant about including additional areas within the urban renewal blight designation and also within their plan and project. At this time, they are focused on moving forward with theirs, including the lands in the unincorporated county does require a lot of additional steps in the process. Notably, there would have to be a step where we expand our urban renewal plan area to include areas of the unincorporated county. That does require review, approval, and then ultimately concurrence by the county commissioners, which would significantly increase the timeline on the project. So this time that was not included in the blight designation, and it would not be eligible for inclusion in this plan and project, as it only includes that lot for the Jolly Roger subdivision.
Any further public comment? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve of the second reading.
Actually, this one is a resolution. So it'd be just a move to adopt.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from committee?
No, it's not. It's something going on.
I have a picture of the conference room.
Oh,
yeah.
You might have to share with.
See, the picture of the conference.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Technical difficulties? Okay, any further comments or any questions or comments from committee? Comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. We have a motion and a second. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay. Next item. You guys don't have to leave.
Number 18, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary documents related to the transfer of a specified portion of the property located at 2014 Del Range Boulevard.
Staff report.
Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. John Copper, Fire Chief, Cheyenne Fire Rescue. The item before you today is for consideration of the resolution authorizing to execute all necessary documentation to convey the property at 2014 Range Boulevard, previously known as Fire Station Number 5, back to the Cole family. As outlined in the deed, the property, if the property ever ceased to be a fire station, the reverter clause stipulates the property shall be conveyed back to the family. As you're aware, we've opened a new fire station off Commerce and vacated the property at Del Range Boulevard. I want to personally thank the Cole family for their generosity for over 61 years to the fire department and to the city of Cheyenne. In over 61 years, that station has responded to over 120,000 calls for service and affected many community members in times of need. So the Coles family's selfless contribution during that time is great. Great testament to their dedication and commitment to the community. So with that, I will answer any questions.
Any questions from committee?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Seagraves?
I'm very much in favor of this. I do believe the Coles have been wonderful as far as giving us that property. We have to make the building and other structures on the property before it's returned.
Nothing stipulated.
Any further questions? from committee? Okay, any public comment? Public comment? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Any comments from committee? Questions or comments? And with the drive-through, car wash, coffee shop and bank. Okay, hearing none, or may I have a motion? I have a motion, a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Number 19, resolution expressing the appreciation of the governing body for the work of Director Nemechek, Director Sanchez, and their respective departments on correcting deficiencies and improving and maintaining certain exterior components of the municipal building.
You have a staff report,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Seagraves.
I believe I better do that. Earlier this year, a number of us put together a resolution requesting improvements to the, particularly the exterior of the municipal building. And Director Nemechek and Director Sanchez have done a wonderful job virtually completing all of those. I think anyone that walks out the front can see the changes. The only remaining item that I'm aware of is some concrete work that needs to be done, and that is planned. So since we put a resolution together, requested them to do it, I thought it was appropriate to do a resolution. Thank you. And that's the genesis of this.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from committee? Mr. Laybourne?
Nemechek and give us a report.
She can. Vicky, if you'd like to give us an overview.
I'm sorry, guys. He looks pretty good here. I don't know. Vicky Nemechek, Public Works. So I went through the resolution. The paint rusted soffits was the first thing. We have done what we can reach. We cannot put a lift on the sidewalks because the lift is too heavy and it will break the sidewalks. So we are talking to painters to see what it might cost. They may have to put together scaffolding in order to get up there. I'm not sure what the cost would be with that, but that's what that's where we're at there. We're still working with Winters Griffith on the failing exterior brick and still monitoring some of those cracks. We do have some movement still. The efflorescence, we tried something, it failed miserably. The efflorescence is tough. So we have gotten that, the rubber type stuff that we put on there, it's off. And we have another idea. We've ordered some, an item to put on there. It's chemical. It may kill all the grass around the area. So we're looking to see what we can do to maybe, make that better, but it's that efflorescence is the tough one right now. The doors are completed, on the front entrance. And I don't think Jason's here.
I will just report that they have, as you can all see, done a lot on the exterior landscaping of the building. And there is a gentleman working here. I believe he's at least here most of the time and still working on making improvements there. So appreciate that as well. And that, I believe, is all I have.
Any questions or- Ready?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in regard to the Futura Stone mess out there that I believe was referenced as being dealt with, how's that coming along?
Oh, the sidewalk. We do have, through you, Chair, we do have, a contract that was approved by council to, not only do that area, but other areas of this building. The majority of the work is in other places, street and alley, traffic, transfer station, those places, but, they have not begun work yet, but we do have them on board.
And so that's going to be with that concrete and the Futura Stone above it and replaced with regular concrete?
Through you, Chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any questions or comments from committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Laborn?
well, this is very pleasant. I think very important that people that come to our building see it at its best. And I'd point out that this effort here hopefully will inspire and pay some attention is paid to other properties in the downtown area that have become kind of run down. So in this case, we're leading by example. It looks great. I think that it really is makes a difference as to how people perceive our city. And I think this is really wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Other business in front of the Public Services Committee, we are adjourned.